So there's a rumor that George Lucas might be involved with episode 9. So what does that even mean? What's up, everybody? Today I'm here to talk about this interesting article that is saying that George Lucas might be involved with episode 9. So what does that even mean? First, I'd like to thank Amanda for sending this topic to me. Thanks so much. Because this is indeed very interesting, and it really shows, if this is true, that Lucasfilm has been really listening to people's complaint, to the point that they go to the original source in order to, fix The Last Jedi. Even though there are some people that like the film, for a company, they need to create a movie that it applies to all, okay? Just to apply to certain people instead of having everyone involved like it used to be, it's a problem, okay? Because then you're just gonna have half of the audience supporting the film. But anyways, I think that this is very interesting. I'm really wondering if this is even true. So the first article I will be talking about is posted on We Got This Covered. And it's saying Disney rumored to be working with George Lucas on Star Wars Episode 9 script. Obviously, I don't doubt it at all, because perhaps the only involvement that he has, it's probably just giving advice. This mess has nothing to do with George Lucas because he had already written treatment for Episode 7, 8, and 9. But Disney decided to actually do something completely different, and they didn't really do anything that George had in mind. The movies has always been known as the Skywalker saga because it's the story about the grandfathers and the son and then the granddaughters, and it keeps going. He said that in interviews a few times as well. So we knew that the Skywalkers would have been back, and definitely I'm pretty sure that in George Lucas' version we would not have Leia floating in space, and perhaps a different Luke as well. But let's see what the article is saying. It starts like this. It sounds like Disney, with their backs against the wall after the disaster of Solo, a Star Wars story, are reaching out for assistance from someone who knows Star Wars like no one other. Well, they should have been doing that from the beginning. I mean, the thing with George, he doesn't really have to be actually involved as far as directing, because I don't really think he was the best director, but the ideas, they should have kept most of it, They should have kept most of it, because I think the biggest problem with The Last Jedi is that it doesn't feel like a Star Wars film, The latest word on Episode 9 rumor mill is that none other than George Lucas has been contracted to help polish up the script and contribute ideas to the upcoming finale of Disney's new trilogy. There's also a rumor that this is going to be the end of the Skywalker. Don't know how I feel about that. I do not want all the Skywalkers to die, okay? I don't think there is a need that. Why not keep someone alive, But the only one that could potentially carry the Skywalkers forward would be Kylo Ren, and now he's evil. Super evil. So I don't know. The set to be directed by JJ Abrams will be a make-or-break release for the studio after the unfairly Last Jedi and the fairly Solo, with Disney hoping to win back fans who might consider themselves a little Star Wars out right now. Okay, apparently the plan is to go in heavy on connections to the prequels and original trilogy, cementing the 9 primary Star Wars movies as one long saga. If that's the case, then it makes sense that they were looking for Lucas for help. Correct, that would make sense. However, they are already kind of detached from the original movies by portraying Luke Skywalker in a completely different way, Again, I have said it many, many times, I have no problem with him even having kind of being a little depressed and being a little upset. What I have a problem is with the execution. A lot of the things were put there to make fun of the character and not to honor the character. We don't even have a complete background of why he's so upset with the world, It doesn't make much sense. There was not a lot of development there. Let's see what else he's saying. This is quite the turnaround for George. After all, his prequel trilogy has been roundly mocked for its leading dialogue and wooden performances ever since its release. with Disney Initial's strategy for the IP being to crib as much from the OT while largely ignoring the prequels. That shift lately, however, with the surprise intervention of an aged Darth Maul in the finale of Solo. And that only has coincided with Lucas starting to make appearances on the set of Star Wars movies, including helping Ron Howard direct a particular scene in the aforementioned spin-off. Is that really true? Because I haven't even heard George Lucas commenting on Solo anywhere. But let's continue. Depending on your opinions of his talents, the resurrection of George Lucas as a creative force in the franchise might make you cheer or groan. I think that as long as he's in charge of only the story beats and plotting, though, with the actual writing of dialogue left to others, this could be just a creative shot in the arms of Star Wars that the Star Wars Episode 9 needs. After all, they've spent much time to ape the style of the OT over the years, so why not just go back to the source? So the source for this article is saying that is MovieWeb. What do I think about this? Well, I would love to have George involved. I've always thought that he should have been involved. I've always thought that they should have listened to him, or at least taking most of his treatment into consideration. I know that some people were saying about the wheels, and that's a crazy idea, but it's all about the execution. If he was talking about expanding the Force, that would be very interesting. Can you imagine? And we also heard that he had an idea that Luke would have trained Leia. I mean, how cool would that be? To see Leia as a trained Jedi, for instance, and having that, perhaps, I don't know if his idea was to have the son of Leia and Han Solo to turn evil like that, There's a lot of things that obviously we don't know, but I've always been very, I respect George Lucas very much. It's all his idea. It all came from his mind. And, if this is really the end of the Skywalker saga, there's no one better than George Lucas to be there to make sure that the characters are honored. Because now the problem is, are people even going to go to the movies to watch this? Can they actually make people go back? We already heard, I covered on a video a couple of days ago that they're bringing Carrie Fisher back by using footage that was pre-shot on episode 7. Not only that, Lando is also back, as well as Luke Skywalker. We haven't heard anything about Han Solo yet, so Harrison Ford's been kind of quiet. I really wonder if they're not going to have any sort of flashback or anything like that, especially taking the fact that Lando is back. And Lando and Han Solo always had that awesome relationship, But I don't really know. I would like to hear your opinion. What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea that George is involved? Do you think this is a desperate attempt to fix what Kathleen Kennedy along with Rian Johnson did to the last movie? And this other article over here on the Express, this is a UK article, says Star Wars Last Jedi Backlash. George Lucas replacing Kathleen Kennedy to fix episode 9. So this article is actually saying that he's because Kathleen Kennedy is the executive producer, right? So if George Lucas is actually being the producer here, then things could really work out for the best, because a lot of the fans are really upset with Kathleen Kennedy because of the way she took the franchise forward. Again, people are not against women, people are not against diversity or any of that. People are against bad storytelling and also forgetting what Star Wars has always been. I'm completely on board for these changes. If George is involved, that would be amazing. Let's see what they're saying. I'm probably not going to read the whole thing, but it's a very short article anyways. And the article starts, can George Lucas and JJ Abrams fix Star Wars? I have hopes, because I like to think positive. The Last Jedi took a huge $1.3 billion at the global box office, and yet it was far short of The Force Awakens that made $2 billion and also divided fans like never before. That's so true. A vocal session was so unhappy with Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy's vision, they declared a boycott of all future Star Wars releases, demanding Lucasfilms fixed the dramatic, perceived change in tone and direction. It is likely this contributed to the disastrous performance of Solo, a Star Wars story. Perhaps yes, it's also the fact that perhaps people are not ready to see a different Han Solo yet. It could have been a lot of other things, We know that Rogue One did very well, and Rogue One is a side story, It's not part of the trilogy. But I'm sure it had a lot to do with the boycott. it had a lot to do with fans being upset with the direction and tone of Star Wars. I totally believe that. And then the articles continue. So is Kathleen Kennedy really no longer involved in Episode 9? A new report said George Lucas may help with Star Wars Episode 9 by leading advice and different ideas to JJ Abrams. George Lucas had a very small part in leading Ron Howard a hand with Han Solo, a Star Wars story. I didn't really hear anything about that, if that's true or not. But you know, the people that saw the movie, the ratings, if you see on the Rotten Tomatoes, is better than The Last Jedi. I did not like Solo. And the reason why I didn't like Solo is because I didn't think that the movie was about Solo, okay? Instead of actually giving us more about his life and expand more on his relationship with Chewie and things, those dynamics that we actually want to see, it was more about these other characters. His whole motivation on the movie was always about Kira. Why even bother bringing another love story? How could, you know, knowing that we all know he's going to fall in love with Leia and they're going to have a kid and all these things. So it's okay to have a crush, but I think they did it too much, you know. And again, the movie was not about Han Solo. It's just about the heist, kind of a heist. What do you actually learn about Han Solo in that movie? That he got his name from the Empire and he actually kept it? Think about it. So, but that movie, it's better in comparison to The Last Jedi for sure. Let's see what else they're saying over here. Apparently, George Lucas will be giving ideas to the director of Star Wars Episode 9, how JJ Abrams should treat certain sequences in the movie. I'm totally up for that. This followed a major declaration in beyond the trailer that Kennedy was stepping down from any involvement in Episode 9. So that's the Grace Randolph's video where she talked about the delicate position that Kathleen Kennedy is. Let's continue. So while Disney boss Bob Iger sought her replacement, there had been more than one report that Kennedy might go as early as September. Would Lucasfilm bring back George Lucas himself in any major capacity? That would be definitely desperate times, right? I mean, Bob Iger is a very smart person. He knows, and they're pretending that they are not hearing the complaints. But they, again, corporates, they worry about numbers, and they worry that the sales of toys went down, the sales of DVD went down, and as well as Solo did not even make the money. It didn't even make a profit, you know. Or if it did, the profit was very low in comparison to other Star Wars films. Let's see. After all, many fans have forgiven him for the wooden child Anakin and even more wooden adult Anakin in the prequel trilogy, not to mention midichlorians and Jar Jar Binks. I honestly, I don't hate any of. I love the characters, you know. Jar Jar Binks was very annoying in my opinion, but I think the wooden performances were there for sure. There was a lot of like. And the dialogue was not very great, but the overall story, it still feels like Star Wars. I love the prequels, you know. I have no problem with the prequels at all. I have a video as well where I say 10 good things about the prequels. So then that's pretty much it. The article continues, and it's kind of a very short article. I'll put the links below. But I'd love to hear your opinion. What do you think? Do you think this is a really true rumor? Because this really shows desperation. Or it shows that they're actually listening, you know, that now they really want to get the feeling of Star Wars that was kind of broken by The Last Jedi. Again, the problem with The Last Jedi, it was the complete disgrace of beloved character for the sake of nothing, okay? Again, for the sake of nothing. Like, people were already on board with Rey and Finn and even Kylo Ren. Like, how many people I heard and saw, and even myself, I was so excited for The Last Jedi. You know, even though the story of Force Awakens is pretty much a New Hope, but people were on board with these characters. They just got mad after what they did at The Last Jedi, you know, making Rey super powerful with no explanation, and also kind of like mistreating Luke Skywalker that way, like having him do these silly things, you know, act silly, you know. We didn't even get to see the power of a master Luke Skywalker, you know. They completely denied us, and also this new trilogy completely denied the fans of the reunion of the original cast. The Force Awakens, for instance, would have been the perfect occasion to give the fans a reunion. Han, Luke, and Leia, can you imagine? Or if one of them were there when Han died, even the scene would be way more powerful, you know. But anyways, guys, that's my opinion. I'm totally on board with George being on board. If that's true, that makes me happy. I'm happy that Luke Skywalker is back. Mark Hamill along with you know, Carrie Fisher. I want to see a proper send-off, you know. I really don't want to see death of these beloved characters. I don't think that's even necessary. And I hope that this is not the end of the Skywalkers. But anyways, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your opinion about this. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Bye!